Hi again, this is Julianne Price with Life Edit and Design, and this is part 2 of our 2-part series about what to expect this holiday season. So in the last episode, we talked about shopping and gifts and kind of how you could get ahead, and that you really are going to need to plan ahead and do things earlier than you normally would do them, and that was in the last episode. So in this episode, we're going to talk about what does it look like for your family events, your gatherings, the whole holiday season as an experience. What does that look like this time around? So the first thing to note is the absence of all your experiences that you're used to, all the traditional things. So when I go onto, we have a website, I live in Albany, and albany.com is this great website with all these things to do in the area, and every listing for the fall said canceled. It was like so depressing to scroll through the list and see it's all canceled. So that's what you're going to find this year. Unfortunately, I think is just a rash of canceled events, all the things you're used to going to, the craft shows, the fairs, the tree lighting ceremony, different things like that. They're just not going to be happening this year. You're going to see a lot of cancels. The other thing that's going to happen is all the school calendar events, the things that used to cram up your entire holiday season, the chorus and the band concerts, the pageants, the dance recitals, the plays, all the school holiday events, all going to be gone. All the things you might have baked for, the bake sales, the fundraisers that happen at this time of year, probably gone. Anything that's homemade, probably gone from the school calendars. All the sporting events, the tournaments, all of that is probably going to be wiped off your calendar. So the good and the bad. There's two ways, obviously, to look at that. Obviously, you're going to have a lot more free time. So you can look at that as a positive, that some of the hecticness of the season is gone. But at the same point, you've lost a lot of the tradition, a lot of the things that you might have done. In our area, we have something called the Victorian Stroll, and people are out on the streets and walking, and there's all these craft vendors up and down the streets. And I haven't seen if that's canceled yet or not, but I have a feeling that probably will be canceled. It's just not, things just are going to be taking a back seat this year to safety. So that's going to be a big, big change. So what do you do with that? When all your traditional events have gone out the window, what are you going to do? I think some of the things you're really, really going to see is the events that are left, like events that you can do from your car, like driving through. We have a holiday lights in the park where you can drive through with your car. That's something that can still happen. You're going to see those events book up fast, and you're also going to see that you need to make reservations for those kind of events. Something that you might have just shown up and done in the past will now require reservations, and they'll probably sell out. So we actually have a Halloween drive through this farm, and you get to see all the Halloween lights. They're doing this whole big thing there. I think they call it the Halloween Glow or something. And when the notice came out, you had to book it almost immediately because they had so many slots per night, so many cars, and so many hours. So at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, you had to book your slot and pay for it and commit to it now for something that we're not doing for a month from now. So you have to be kind of, number one, be on the alert, be on the lookout for those things where maybe a ticketed event, which used to be an open to the public, stroll through, come as you will, you're now going to probably have to buy tickets and book a reservation in advance. The second thing is, if it's not something like this, I can drive through my car, and so I don't care about the weather so much. But there was another one where you got to walk through and look at all these jack-o'-lanterns that were all going to be carved up, and you could book that in advance. And I'm like, I don't want to book for that. I don't want to commit to that and have it be a rainy, messy, horrible night. The last thing I'd want to be doing is out walking through a field and be in knee-deep mud to look at a bunch of jack-o'-lanterns. That just might not be fun. But I had to commit to it now if I wanted to do it. So when you're looking at these items, you got to decide, is it weather related? Is it weather dependent? And will I want to do it as if the weather's inclement, cold, whatever? And the second thing is, how are they charging? Like the car one, the one I'm driving through, you pay per carload, so I can stick as many people as I want in there. Great, cool. I don't have to make a whole lot of plans. I book the time, the date, and that's it. I'll figure out who's coming with us and what we're going to do later. But I know I have that, and I know even if the weather's bad, we can still see the lights. Hopefully it's not downpouring. But the walking through the pumpkin thing, it was a charge per person. I'm like, well, I'd have to decide who was coming with me in advance. I'd have to take my chances with the weather, and I'd have to pay and commit all this up front. And to me, that was just like too many risk factors. I'm not going to do it. So it'll probably be sold out, and it won't be an event I get to do. So I have to pick and choose which events I'm willing to risk and which events I'm just going to have to bypass this year. So that's one of my big tips for you this year is, if there are events still happening, take a look, see if you have to make a reservation, and see if you're willing to commit far out to a particular time slot and date slot. So that's how a lot of the different events are going to be, that the ones that will make it. So be on the lookout for that. Do your research now, find out when tickets are opening or going on sale, and if that is going to be the policy going forward. So that's one thing to think about. So you're going to have this extra time in your hand. A lot of people are going to have extra time in their hand. So we talked about in the last episode, there's going to be a lot more people doing things like crafting because they're going to have time and they're going to have their kids at home. What are you going to do to fill the time? And crafting is an easy one. So you're going to see a lot of that. You'll probably see a lot of coloring for the kids, a lot of cut and paste, felt projects, things like that. I know Michael's used to come out with these felt villages that you just kind of glue together, and they'd have a Christmas village and they might have had a Halloween village as well in past years. So I think you're going to see a lot of things going out the door with kids' crafts are going to be very popular. So be thinking ahead. Kind of get on. Pinterest is awesome for this. Go through and find some kids' crafts, things that you can do to fill this empty time now. So since the kids aren't as busy as they used to be, they're going to come home and they don't have their after-school activities and they don't have their sports and things that they're used to doing. Be prepared and come up with ideas, Christmas crafts. You can do holiday seasonal crafts. Even over the long Thanksgiving weekend, you're not going to be out doing the things that you used to do. So come up with some plans. You're really going to need to grab your planner, think ahead, and have something going on each weekend that you can kind of fill their time with and your time. You're going to have a lot more time. If you're a parent or grandparent, the things that you used to go to with your kids are just not going to be there, so it's going to give you more time for you. So other things that you might want to be thinking about is coming up with more elaborate meals when you have a weekend and now you're not running around to soccer games and you're not running around to basketball games. What else could you fill that time with? You might want to have one weekend where the whole family cooks together. So start be thinking of events that you can do as a family that you will benefit your whole family. Everybody will want to get involved, but in the end, there's something that everybody can use. Everybody can eat a meal, or everybody can maybe benefit from the craft. So think along those lines. The other thing I want you to think about is the family celebrations. So you might be used to everybody gathering for the big Thanksgiving dinner, and then again, everybody gathers for the big Christmas feast, whatever you do at your house. This year, you might not want to have such a big gang all together at once. Good and bad to this. So yes, it's a break in tradition. You might not want everybody together, but you have more time on your hands. So why not have a series of smaller events where you're not exposing so many people to one another, but you're filling more time with it. So you could do, and they don't have to be elaborate events, but you could do an event maybe with just the grandparents or one set of grandparents, and then maybe do an event with cousins or neighbors or good friends, but spread it all out so people that might have all come to one event could now be broken down to smaller, more intimate events spread out over the season. So again, everyone's calendar is going to be a little less full than it used to be. So if you get ahead of that and you say, hey, I want to have a dinner with just the grandparents, and we're just going to do it on this day, you can get on their calendar, you can get them into your house in a much less crowded atmosphere. So look at it as a benefit that you can do more events intimately and you don't need to go crazy on them. You don't have to have an elaborate dinner you've done 6 times. You can make smaller portions, smaller meals, come up with fun things, do pizza nights. It doesn't have to be the whole big holiday feast, but you can do more events now that are smaller. And think about how you can schedule those strategically so that you have some fun things to do. So maybe you do, the baking cookies is an event you do with grandma, and you do a different event with an uncle and their family, where maybe you do a craft or make the gingerbread houses. That's always a fun thing to do. So now you're looking at different events you can do in the house, but with a different group of people. So it's not so much maybe centered around a meal, might be centered around an activity. Another thing you can do, be thinking about is the Christmas countdowns. We'll be doing a whole video on Christmas countdowns, but it's different things that you can do for those 25 days just to keep the excitement going. With the absence of events, you as the planner need to step in and come up with new things for them to do. So all kinds of Christmas countdowns. You can color in a coloring book and have everybody do a different page. You can do the construction rings. And again, we'll do a whole video on Christmas countdowns because I have a planner that comes out too. That's an adult version of a Christmas countdown. So, but be thinking what you can do with that. Bucket lists will become kind of, I think, more common. Is a holiday bucket list of, you can have a Thanksgiving bucket list, you can have a Christmas bucket list, and I am going to do a whole video on planning and Christmas and activities, so we'll get into that in a different video, but be thinking about, lists of things that you can be checking off and getting through the holiday season. Again, you're going to be in charge of the activities. You're the activity director this time around, and it's not going to be so much the community activities. It's going to be whatever you can create, whatever you come up with your imagination. So a little bit more pressure on you, which requires a little bit more planning on your part so that you're ahead of the game and you can come up with activities for everybody to do. Another thing to be thinking about is, again, we talked about in the last video how shipping is going to be slower. So if you typically maybe ship some cookies to somebody and it takes 3 or 4 days to get there, might want to rethink that this year, because it could take 15, 16 days to get there, and how are they going to, you don't really want a cookie that's been sitting in a post office or some kind of warehouse facility for that long. So rethink some of the things that you might be shipping to people, as far as if they were a traditional gift that came from your kitchen. You might want to rethink some of those things. Also be thinking, if there's people that normally would have come to you for your celebrations, might have traveled from another state, they might not be able to do that this year. So how can you incorporate the people who can't, again, with the shipping, you can't ship to them, they can't ship themselves into you this year. What else can you do? So can you have a Zoom activity, or whatever you want to do, FaceTime activity with some of these people that used to come into you, but now they can't? Doesn't mean you can't all have a meal together. You could share some recipes and both cook your versions of something, and then sit down and just have an iPad going while you're all having a fun dinner conversation, or just have dessert together or coffee together. It doesn't have to be the meal, but you really have to be thinking this year, how am I going to deal with the distance people? If shipping is definitely something that I can't do what I normally used to do, and they're not coming to me, how can I still celebrate the holidays? And especially the grandparents, the people who might be in assisted living or a nursing home that really can't even have the visitors, or they're limited to one visitor at a time, so you really can't get your kids in to see them, or your whole family can't come in at one time. How can you use technology to replace some of that or keep some of that interaction going? We did family bingo. When in the heart of COVID, I sent everybody bingo chips and bingo cards, and we got on FaceTime and everybody played bingo. And so I think my husband was calling the numbers, and we were all in different rooms with our phones going, and we played bingo that way. And I actually sent some joke prizes to everybody in advance, so that if you were the winner, you got to open, it was like a lottery ticket or something. It wasn't anything big deal, but I had gone ahead of time, and I dropped off stuff to everybody, and I shipped to the people who were out of the area, so that everybody had their supplies in advance, and then we all played bingo one night. So really, you got to be creative this time. This year, it's not going to be the traditions. This year, it's going to be new traditions. What can you come up with to make new family activities? Fill this calendar back up and look at it as an advantage, a bonus. Yes, it's going to be a little extra work on you, but it allows you to do more events that are homegrown, more events that are intimate, smaller groups, where you really get to enjoy the conversation with the people, really get to work with your kids. Bring out that dusty camera. If you're somebody who just hasn't taken a lot of photos, now is a great time to do that. It's also a great time to look in those old projects. Maybe you had photo projects and you've always wanted to scrapbook for the holidays and you just never got around to doing it. You're going to have more time this holiday season. Think about making gifts from photos and putting together some fun albums. Again, this is great for those people that you might have to ship something to, who are going to miss out on some of the activities that they're used to. Send them photos from last year's Christmas. Do a photo shoot with your family, some goofy things. Run out and go apple picking and take photo shoots there. Things that you can send to grandparents and people out of your area so that they really have some fun. And again, you can do it electronically. You can send them a slideshow if they have the technology to handle that. But otherwise, print out photos, create a little album, ship it out to them. Give yourselves plenty of time. But really going to require you to be creative this year and think differently. So I wanted to make sure, did I get everything? I think I got everything I wanted to do to go over on this video. So again, a lot more planning on your part, a lot more effort on your part, but you can wind up with some really new traditions that are fun, and you can definitely have a better connection with everybody because you're not going to be so rushed. If you plan ahead, you're not going to be crazy. You're going to have a nice thought out system for this year, and that requires you to do it now when things aren't crazy. Do your planning now so you can roll right into the holiday season and have a great time. So some upcoming videos, I'm going to do one all on Christmas planning. I have a Christmas planner and we're going to go through it, talk about how you can use that as a tool to get yourself through this holiday. And we're going to do another video again on the Christmas countdown and all the fun things that you can do to count down to Christmas to make those 25 days really exciting. If you haven't already, you want to subscribe to Life Edit and Design to the newsletter. You get to know when these videos are coming out. You get to know what I'm working on next. You'll get to get some behind the scenes hints on the big, huge end of the year sale that's coming. Hint, hint, really big. You're going to want to know about it. And the special bonus that's going to be available just to subscribers. So go over to lifeeditanddesign.com, sign up there for the newsletter, and you will have all the backstage access before I launch the big sale. So love talking to you. We will chat next time. Have a great day.